Hello everyone, it's Shannon here for Hero Arts. In this video, we're going to do some simple watercoloring with the included Karin DécoBrush markers included in the May My Monthly Hero Kit to create this pastel rainbow card and matching envelope. We're going to start with the stamp set included in the May My Monthly Hero Kit. This is a sweet little set full of rainbows, a great set for not only making cards but also decorating your envelopes. I'm going to center a sentiment from that set and stamp it onto a panel of Bristol paper. This panel is slightly smaller than an A2 panel. It is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I first put down some anti-static powder and then I'm going to ink it up with Hero Arts Clear Embossing Watermark ink. I'll then dip it in some gold embossing powder, just tap off the excess, and then I'll heat set with my heat tool. I'm not going to stamp around my sentiment. I pulled off some images from the stamp set, placed them around the sentiment, and again I'm going to put down some anti-static powder because I am going to heat emboss, so I'm inking it up with the embossing watermark ink. Then again I will dip it into some clear embossing powder, tap off the excess. If you have any little stray embossing powder sticking anywhere, it's helpful to use a paintbrush, a dry paintbrush, to kind of brush away any of that stray embossing powder. And I'm basically going to repeat this process till I have the whole panel covered with these images. I'm using the sun, the rainbow, there's a little burst, and as well as a couple of the flowers from the set. And I'm just finishing up here this last corner, and again a heat emboss the whole thing. The heat embossing is going to serve as an emboss resist to our watercoloring when we use the Karin DécoBrush pens. And here's our completed panel ready for us to watercolor. Before I do that, I'm going to stamp real quickly onto this envelope here. I pulled off the larger rainbow from the stamp set, and I'm going to heat emboss this as well. So I did apply some anti-static powder and then inked it up in the embossing watermark ink and then gold heat embossed it. Lastly, I will stamp a sentiment inside the cloud. The sentiment says, "Look for happiness inside," which is a perfect sentiment for the outside of an envelope. I'm not going to move on to watercoloring. I have a piece of white cardstock that is laminated. I'm going to use that as my palette. I've also sprayed down some water onto the palette, and then I scribbled the gold marker down onto the palette to kind of release some of that paint, and now I'm mixing some water with that paint to kind of dilute it and get it a little bit more fluid and ready to paint. Once I get it to the right color and consistency, then I will start painting all the images that I want yellow, so including the suns, of course one of the stripes, and the rainbow, as well as some of the flowers. I'm definitely going for a more pastel palette. I thought, when I saw these images, I thought of It's a Small World, that ride in Disneyland, and I just associate a really soft, pretty light pastel palette for that. So now that I've finished the yellow, I'm going to create orange. So this kit came with a gold, a pink, and a blue marker, which can basically serve as your primary colors. So I'm going to use the pink and the gold and mix them together to create an orange. At least an orange the best that I can. The orange was the trickiest color to kind of mix up, and it ends up being more of a terracotta, which, as long as it's a little bit has a little bit of contrast to the pink, I'm happy. So I've mixed up a fair amount so I don't have to keep mixing it and getting different hues for different sections. And then I start painting all the little sections that I want orange. So some of the petals on the flowers, of course, another stripe in the rainbow. And once I finish those little sections, then I'm going to move on to the envelope. So I forgot to do my yellow stripe, but luckily yellow is just basically the color straight out of the marker, just diluted. So I'm quickly going to do my orange stripe and then mix up a little bit more of my yellow and paint my yellow stripe. And then I'll move on to my next color. So next up is green. So to create green, I'm going to use gold and a little bit of the blue. The blue is super strong. It's like more intense color than the other one, so I just needed the tiniest amount of blue to kind of mix up and make that green. And that green is actually a really easy one to kind of mix up. So again, I'm just going to paint all my sections that I want with my green, including not forgetting that stripe on the rainbow on the envelope. Once I finish that, I'll move on to my blue, and as you can see here, that blue again is like super kind of concentrated or really dark shade. So I mixed it a lot with water, really diluted that color to get a more of a soft pastel blue. And then I'm going to paint that stripe, and then for the clouds on the envelope, I'm just going to paint a little bit on the clouds. I don't want to get that envelope too saturated because of course right there is where you would lick and seal, where all that adhesive is, and I don't want to lose that. So I'm just finishing up here with my last color, which is my pink. Again, I scribbled some of that pink marker down onto my palette, mixed it with water, and once I got it to the right shade and consistency, I painted all the remaining sections of my panel and my envelope. I'm now going to move on to finishing up this card. I have an A2 top folding card base made from mustard cardstock. I'm first going to add some glue to the back side of my panel. Remember, this panel is just slightly smaller than an A2 panel, so we're going to have a cute little yellow border around our images. And once I adhere that down, my card is complete. I'll hold it to the camera so you can get a good look. I love how this card turned out. First of all, I just really love these images. Like I said, they remind me of It's a Small World, so I was so excited when I saw the stamp set. And I also really like the pastel color palette. It's not typically what I do with a rainbow. I usually go bright and bold, but I really do love how soft and pretty and just kind of fresh and happy this feels. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. If you'd like any more information on the products I used, please head over to Hero Arts. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.